Hello there, my name is Sara Jewell. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm in a different space today because of an ice storm that hit Nova Scotia last night. In-person church was canceled, so I just did it for our Facebook group at home in this little space. But I wanted to be able to share my sermon from today, and so I'm going to do that now from the sanctuary in my upstairs at my home in rural Nova Scotia. So last Sunday at church, we talked about kindness and how thankfully we are not the kindest people, and thankfully there are plenty of kind people in our community, in our province, in our nation, around the world. And this is what keeps us going. This is what gives us hope and courage and resilience. To do what? What do we do when we are ready to spread kindness beyond our own community? Let's take a look at Jesus' statement that if someone slaps your right cheek, you turn and give them your left cheek. I mean, we know that Jesus was all about radical love and radical kindness and changing the system, changing the world. But that statement's a bit much. And yet, turning the other cheek is next level kindness. It's also everything Jesus stood for. Nonviolent resistance, nonviolent liberation. Want to overthrow the Romans? Do it without violence. Want to change the way women are treated? Do it without violence. Want to change the system that favors the rich and powerful? Do it without violence. Want mercy and justice for the oppressed and persecuted? Do it without violence. Jesus saw, just as we see, how violence only begets more violence. Jesus saw, just as we see, that violence doesn't solve anything. It just makes everything worse. Jesus saw, just as we see, that violence doesn't change the system, doesn't change the way we treat people, doesn't bring about more mercy and justice. Jesus saw, just as we see, that war does not create peace. And yet, turning the other cheek is not the default human reaction. Last week at school, 3 students got into a fight. All 3 were suspended, even though one of them was defending himself. This is the conundrum for schools. Kids are told at home by their parents, if someone punches you, defend yourself. But teachers and principals say, if someone punches you or shoves you or says something mean to you, tell a teacher. Walk away, tell a teacher. It's not fair to punish the kid who fought back, though, is it? Except it escalates. It's never just a punch for a punch, a kick for a kick. No one runs away to tell a teacher. But at school, we are pushing kindness and nonviolent response. We are teaching turn the other cheek. Yet it's not what society and culture, and sometimes home, teaches our kids. The call to turn the other cheek appears in 2 Gospels, in Luke and in Matthew, and it refers to the idea of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. The historical context to Jesus' statement is essential. He's quoting Hebrew scriptures from the book of Exodus. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth is the idea that an injury should be repaid in kind, and only in kind. It's an attempt to impose fairness and justice in criminal law. It's easy to imagine that in pre-biblical societies, the victim of an injury might retaliate by taking his attacker's life. This, of course, would create a cycle of feuding and vengeance that would go on for generations. As we humans love to hold grudges, and we love to get revenge. So, by limiting the punishment for injury, by insisting that every injury be repaid in kind, as in if someone spears your eye out, you can only take out their eye, not burn down their house with their entire family in it. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, is meant to limit revenge and keep everything fair. So along comes Jesus saying, nope, not even that. There he is saying, if anyone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other one also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, give them your coat as well. Honestly, what was he thinking? They want your shirt, give them your jacket too? Really? And he says that, by the way, in Matthew chapter 5. According to American theologian and activist Walter Wink, with his statement to turn the other cheek, Jesus was pointing to a third way of reacting. Not fight, not flight, but an active, nonviolent challenge to the bully, to the oppressor. To find the good news in what Jesus was saying, Wink realized Jesus wasn't advocating for us to give in, walk away, or ignore oppression and persecution, but to challenge it in a completely different way. This is Jesus, after all. Everything he said has a deeper meaning, a more urgent message. So let's assume Jesus was saying, don't react. Don't give someone the satisfaction of responding like they do. Don't lower yourself to their level. Resist violence, always and actively. Remember Michelle Obama saying, when they go low, we go high? That's Jesus talk. Turn the other cheek, walk away. When they go low, you go high. But because this is Jesus, there's more to it. Of course there is. For Jesus, fight had another meaning. You fought back, but not with violence. What is non-violence? Love and compassion and peace. Kindness. But more, relentless versions of these. Relentless, unrelenting, constant, committed love, compassion, peace, and kindness. All the time, no matter what. Seriously, who on earth could manage to be relentlessly loving and kind all the time? And part of me wants to say, why not? Why is it so hard? Why don't we do the work? Father John Deere is a longtime peace activist and author of 40 books on peace and nonviolence. He lives in California. And after Jesus, his two greatest influences for nonviolence are Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Deere breaks down living a life of nonviolence into 3 practices that we all must do. All 3, not just one. First, you have to be totally nonviolent to yourself. 2, you also have to be meticulously nonviolent toward every human being in your life. Every human being you'll ever meet. Every human being on the planet and all the creatures as well as the planet itself. 3, you also have to have one foot in the global grassroots movement of nonviolence as a proponent for justice, disarmament, and the environment. Once you step into one of these issues, you'll realize they're all connected. Father Deere, which is spelled D-E-A-R, Father Deere, says that people tell him, that's impossible, and add that they're really good at one of these. And his response is, that's the problem. There are billions of people who are peaceful and nice. That is not gospel or Jesus nonviolence. And that's our problem. Jesus called his followers and continues to call his followers to do everything differently, to be whole life committed to his way of love and peace, to nonviolent resistance and liberation, and simply to taking care of each other, which means we don't hurt each other. But for some reason, we just couldn't and still can't get on board fully with what he asked of us. We couldn't and we still can't let go of the violence, the greed, the need for power, the need to judge and shame others, to exclude others, to oppress and hurt and even kill others. So in this way, there aren't enough kind people in the world. Because kindness isn't just being nice to each other. It isn't just smiles and hugs and compliments. It isn't just taking food to someone in crisis. It isn't just making a donation to an animal shelter or donating wool socks to an outreach center. We are called to be kind, to love as Jesus did, exactly like he did. Following Jesus is whole life. Everything we do, everything we say, everything we think, everything we believe must be totally Jesus. As in, be perfect. Again, that's impossible. That actually is the last verse of Matthew chapter 5. Be perfect as God is perfect. That's what Jesus said. But perfection, as Jesus meant it, in the context for him, means loving, perfect love. He's referring to the commandment to love one another as he loved us. Be perfect in your loving. All the time. Not just by speaking words of love and peace, but doing the work of love and peace. All the time. Does Father John Deere think that's possible? Does he think people really can do this work? After all this time of not doing it. And he says, it's the struggle of ordinary people to keep at it. We have to live our lives, but we have to be detached from the outcome and the results. Meaning, just do it. Keep at it. Keep doing it. Don't think about if it's working. Don't worry if you're going to see. Don't even think about seeing a result of what you're doing. Just do it. Just as Jesus did. He didn't worry about the outcome. His death or what would happen after he died. But look at the outcome. We have our faith because of his work. That was the outcome. And he might never have known that. As Father Deere says, when you let go and you walk forward in faith and you take new risks for justice, disarmament, and creation in the spirit of total nonviolence, much more can happen because then the God of peace can work through you. May these words be inspiration and motivation for our living. Amen. Thank you for checking in. Thank you for watching this. Hope it means as much to you as it meant to me to write it and share it. Have a good day.